for you, for your family, your situation, what was probably like the hardest thing growing up when just growing up in the situation?
Hmm. So, I would have to say it would have to be who my father is in my family. My dad's the black sheep of the family. So it may not have been this way, but I always felt like I got the rap, his rap. You know what I mean? I got his legacy thrown over me, and it was always oh, you're gonna end up just like him, or it's just there's something to prove. You know what I mean? There's a chip on my shoulder for that, and it's no knock against him. You know what I mean? He's been through his own life and his own experiences, but um, it was just something that always loomed over me,
Mm.
and something that I used as a motivation. So in a sense, it was negative, but at the same time, I was able to use it and turn it into something positive.
No, I love that. I love that. For me, it was a lot of the same. I would say the hardest thing was just the concept of what family was. Obviously growing up in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, you still kind of had that prototypical family from the 90s kind of carried over before it really evolved mid 2000s, 2010s into what it is more common today of, the split family co-parenting situation. Um, and so it was really confusing for me personally to see like I have a grandma, you have a mom and a dad. I don't have a mom and a dad. You have siblings. I have siblings, but I don't know my siblings. I just know I have siblings, but I don't know my siblings. And it was so awkward growing up, especially after I got to know my siblings on my dad's side. It's like, oh yeah, I have a sister. I have a half brother who I never met, never talked to, but I have a half brother. But I have a half brother, and then I have this sibling, this sibling, this sibling. And it's always just so weird. It was like this. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people, except for it
Yeah,
makes sense to us because we lived it. You don't. It's one of those things that you don't really get unless you lived it. And a lot of the time, it was like, oh, well, I'm so sorry that you don't know your brother. It's like, it's all right. I'll get to know him someday. I always kept that. Like I always knew that there was going to be a time that we finally found each other, you know, united, and we had that relationship we didn't have as kids.
yeah, no, and it's always been something in the back of my head, growing up as a kid, and I think that's where it comes into play. Kid in that situation is the psychological effect, man. It's from my own experience and what I gather with my close friends that come from a split family, and um, honestly, even my wife, her parents are split up. She has a stepfather, and from what I gather, it's the feeling of why did it happen, and you put a lot of the blame on yourself when in all reality it wasn't not in spite of you, but maybe to better you or to keep you from certain outcomes that weren't wanted. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's very rare that I see it that the parent is just doesn't want the children. You know what I mean? It's always for a reason.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I definitely blame myself for being unlovable, unwanted, most kids do in that situation. And I hope my kids never feel that way. I never make it seem like they feel that way. But there are benefits that I actually found kind of from children of divorced parents, but also are applied to kind of what we both went through as well. Where kids can who do go through these situations can be more helpful by nature, more caring, more tolerant because of their experience. We understand we have like a different set of emotions kind of programmed into us from the beginning, having to understand and explain these things and be like, yeah, I don't have a I have a brother I haven't met,
Yeah,
and then kind of keep going, and the fact that we had to go through this gave us practical skills, at least for me, I can say my these skills were probably better than others, and I'm sure yours were probably better in these areas as well. Just from knowing you, I can say they are. Problem solving skills are usually a little bit better in kids from the situation. If
Mm,
handled right, children can mature and evolve and develop in ways that they wouldn't have done in a normal married environment. So there are benefits to it, and I feel like those benefits are lifelong. There's also the negative as well, but that's also on those individuals as they get older to take responsibility for it and to heal from that. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, definitely. And another note that you since you brought that up is I think the a big benefit that we're gonna see in our generation is the kids that went through it don't want their kids to go through it, and so you're gonna have people who are more willing to put time into a relationship and for their kids, or at least try. Whereas someone who didn't go through that wouldn't really, pay it any mind or give it a second thought.
No, I agree. It definitely makes you more mindful of that to be able to make sure you don't pass that forward because you never want your own kids to feel what you felt. You want better for your kids than what you had.
Yeah, of course, man. And honestly, I think that's a lot of why we see the atmosphere around co-parenting and having a healthy relationship with an ex-wife or an ex-husband. I that's more normalized nowadays. Before, it's like, if there's a set of people who get divorced and they hate each other, and usually one person gets the rights to the children, and it destroys a family. But
Mm-hmm.
I see now, like in your situation, like it's not the best. You know what I mean? It's not like a perfect world, but you
No,
guys make it great for the kids. You know what I mean? You guys, and I think there's a, like you said, there's a benefit to it. You know what I mean? They get the best of both worlds.
agree. So I'll, I'm gonna wrap us up here. Do you have any final thoughts on this topic?
Um, Honestly, man, I there's a lot to unpack there, but we'll just leave it there.
There's
Well,
tons. We don't got to unpack our childhood trauma onto the listener here. So I just want to end it with a quote. At least I don't want to. I save that for my therapist, so I pay her. But light. So I found this awesome quote by William Woodworth. And listener, if you guys don't know already from listening to Let's Talk, I absolutely love quotes, and I feel like they're just simple reminders and they're easy things to remember for these topics. But life is divided into three terms: that which was, which is, and will be. Let us learn from the past to profit by the present, and from the resent to live better in the future, in the further, is what it says. So basically, learn from your past, make your lessons from the past profit your present, so that you're not resenting later in life. Basically, what it's saying. So don't let your experiences go on to your kids so that they resent you later in life, and instead of putting you in a nice nursing home or asking you to come live with asking you to come live with them, and they'll take care of you and they love you and they'll bring you soup in bed every day, and they're just going to stick you in a nursing home and go broke because they don't want to deal with you. So thank you. Needed that.
yeah, yeah, well, it's a little rough.